Right, let's talk about crime. When you hear that word, you probably picture a masked figure sneaking around in the dark, or maybe a dramatic car chase from a movie that's, let's be honest, 90% explosions and 10% plot. But there's another kind of crime. A far more polite, well-dressed, and frankly devastating kind of crime. It's called white-collar crime, and it's committed by people who look less like a menacing villain, and more like your dad's boss who tells slightly too long stories at the company barbecue. These are the crimes committed in boardrooms and fancy offices, using spreadsheets instead of crowbars, and emails instead of getaway cars. It's the kind of law-breaking that doesn't leave a broken window, but can absolutely shatter your life savings. So why should you care? Because while a bank robber might steal thousands from one bank, a white-collar criminal can vaporize the life savings of thousands of people with a single bad decision and a few cleverly worded documents. This isn't some abstract problem for Wall Street bigwigs. It affects everyone. It can make your pension fund disappear, cause the company you work for to collapse overnight, and even raise the price of everyday goods. It's a bit like a termite infestation. You don't see them, you don't hear them, but they are quietly chewing away at the very foundations of the economy, and by the time you notice the damage, your entire house could be ready to fall down. It's the silent economic killer. These crimes are all about deception. They're about a betrayal of trust. We trust that the numbers a company reports are real. We trust that our financial advisors are working for us, not just for their own ridiculously large bonuses. We trust that the people running major corporations aren't just playing a high-stakes game of Monopoly with our retirement funds. White-collar crime is what happens when that trust is not just broken, but cynically exploited for personal gain. It's the reason you might have to work an extra decade before you can retire, all because someone in a suit decided their fourth vacation home was more important than your financial security. The term white-collar crime itself sounds so clean, doesn't it? It was coined back in the 1930s to distinguish these offenses from blue-collar street crimes. But don't let the name fool you. There is nothing clean about it. It might not involve physical violence, but the emotional and financial devastation it leaves behind is immense and widespread. It's a systemic issue that reveals a glaring double standard in our justice system. Steal a loaf of bread to feed your family, and you could face jail time. Steal $1 billion from investors through fraudulent accounting, and you might just get a stern talking to and a fine that amounts to a rounding error in your offshore bank account. And that, right there, is the infuriating heart of the problem. Now, for some real-world examples, because nothing says this is a massive problem like a few spectacular corporate implosions. First up, let's talk about Enron. Enron. In the late 90s, they were the 7th largest company in America, an energy trading giant that everyone thought was the pinnacle of modern business. Their executives were hailed as geniuses. The only problem? It was all a lie. A giant, complicated, soul-crushing lie. They used accounting tricks so complex they probably needed a decoder ring and a PhD to understand them, essentially hiding billions of dollars in debt while making the company look wildly profitable. They were like a student who gets an A on a test by writing A+ on it themselves with a crayon. When the truth finally came out in 2001, the company collapsed faster than a sandcastle in a tsunami. The stock price went from over $90 a share to less than $1. Thousands of employees lost their jobs, and worse, their life savings, which were tied up in company stock they were encouraged to buy right up until the bitter end. It was a complete and total catastrophe, orchestrated by executives who walked away with millions while their employees were left with literally nothing. It was a perfect example of how the people at the very top can rig the game, cash out, and then act surprised when the whole thing comes crashing down on everyone else. Then, there's Bernie Madoff, the man who turned the Ponzi scheme into a dark art form. For decades, Madoff ran the largest Ponzi scheme in history, a scam of such epic proportions, it's almost impressive if it weren't so monstrously evil. He promised investors steady, high returns, and he delivered, for a while. But he wasn't actually investing their money. He was just paying off old investors with money from new investors, all while skimming a fortune for himself. He was the financial equivalent of a juggler who keeps adding more and more balls, knowing that eventually they're all going to come crashing down on his head and everyone else's. When the 2008 financial crisis hit, everyone wanted their money back at once, and Madoff's house of cards finally collapsed. He had defrauded thousands of people, including charities, universities, and ordinary retirees. Out of an estimated $65 billion, people who thought they were set for life discovered they were broke. The human cost was staggering, with stories of ruined lives and deep despair. Madoff proved that a single, trusted individual could cause as much damage as a natural disaster, all while wearing a very nice suit and a pleasant smile. It was a brutal lesson in how trust can be the most dangerous commodity of all. White-collar crime isn't just one thing, it's more like a terrible all-you-can-eat buffet of financial malfeasance. Let's look at the menu, shall we? First, you have your classic fraud. This is the big one, the catch-all term for tricking someone to get their money. This includes things like the Enron scandal, cooking the books to lie to investors, or our next case study, Theranos, where founder Elizabeth Holmes convinced people her magical blood testing machine worked when it absolutely, unequivocally did not. She didn't just sell a product, she sold a lie, wrapped in a black turtleneck and a compelling story. That, my friends, is fraud. It's lying, but with spreadsheets and a bigger budget. Next up on our tour of corporate depravity is embezzlement. This is a bit more personal. It's when someone in a position of trust, like an accountant or a manager, decides to just help themselves to the company's money. Think of it as stealing from the inside. Instead of a ski mask, they use their access to bank accounts and financial records. They might create fake invoices, write checks to themselves, or just skim a little cash off the top over a long period. It's the slow, quiet bleed that can cripple a small business or even a large corporation, all because someone couldn't resist the temptation of the cookie jar they were supposed to be guarding. Then we have some Wall Street favorites, insider trading, and money laundering. Insider trading is when you use confidential, not public information to make a stock trade. For instance, if you're a CEO and you know your company is about to be bought out, which will make the stock price soar, and you tell your cousin to buy a ton of shares before the news breaks, that's insider trading. It's rigging the stock market casino so you always win. Money laundering, on the other hand, is the process of making illegally gained money look like it came from a legitimate source. It's essentially the financial world's washing machine, taking dirty money from, say, drug trafficking and spinning it through a series of complex transactions until it comes out looking sparkling clean. And let's not forget tax evasion and bribery. Tax evasion is pretty straightforward. It's illegally not paying the taxes you owe. This isn't about finding clever loopholes. This is about actively hiding income or inventing deductions to cheat the government. When corporations or wealthy individuals do this, it means the rest of us have to shoulder more of the tax burden. Finally, there's bribery, the simple, age-old act of giving someone money or a gift to influence their actions. A construction company bribing a city official to win a contract, for example. It corrodes public trust and ensures that decisions are made based on who has the deepest pockets, not what's best for the public. It's a whole ecosystem of corruption, all neatly filed under the cost of doing business. So, how much does all this corporate malarkey actually cost? The short answer is a lot, a truly mind-boggling amount. The FBI estimates that white-collar crime costs the United States more than $300 billion a year. Let me put that in perspective for you. That is more than the estimated cost of all property crimes, burglary, larceny, car theft, you name it, combined. It's enough money to fund NASA for over a decade. It's a number so large that it almost loses its meaning. But behind that abstract figure are very real consequences and very real victims, who often aren't the ones with golden parachutes. The victims of white-collar crime are not just faceless investors on a stock ticker. They are regular people. They are the factory workers who show up one day to find the doors chained shut because the executives gambled away the company's pension fund. They are the elderly couple who gave their life savings to a financial advisor, like Bernie Madoff, only to find themselves destitute in their final years. They are the small business owners who are forced to close down because a larger competitor used illegal tactics to drive them out of the market. These crimes don't just drain bank accounts, they destroy dreams, families, and communities, and the damage goes far beyond the initial financial loss. Think about the ripple effects. When a large company like Enron collapses, it's not just the employees who suffer. The suppliers who sold them goods go unpaid. The local coffee shops and restaurants that relied on the company's workers lose their customers. The city loses a massive source of tax revenue, which means less money for schools, roads, and fire departments. A single massive act of corporate fraud can send shockwaves through an entire economy, contributing to recessions, job losses, and a general feeling that the whole system is a rigged game. It's a cancer that metastasizes. Perhaps the most insidious cost, however, is the erosion of trust. Trust is the grease that keeps the wheels of our economy turning. We trust that banks are safeguarding our money. We trust that the stock market is a fair place to invest. We trust that corporations are being honest about their performance. Every time a major white-collar scandal breaks, that trust is chipped away. People become more cynical, more hesitant to invest, and more convinced that the system is stacked against them. You can't put a dollar amount on that kind of damage, but it is profoundly corrosive to a healthy society. It's a betrayal that leaves scars long after the money is gone. So, if these crimes cause so much damage, why does it feel like the perpetrators are so hard to catch and punish? Well, for starters, these crimes are incredibly complex. A street robbery is usually pretty straightforward. Someone took something that wasn't theirs. But proving a complex financial fraud case can involve sifting through millions of documents, emails, and financial records. It's a gigantic, mind-numbing puzzle. Prosecutors have to show not just that money was lost, but that the suspect intended to commit a crime. And that's a very high bar to clear, especially when the defense can hire an army of expensive lawyers to argue that it was all just a series of unfortunate mistakes or aggressive, but legal business strategies. Another huge problem is that these crimes are often hidden in plain sight, disguised as normal business activities. The line between a clever legal tax strategy and illegal tax evasion can be incredibly blurry. The difference between a risky business decision that went bad and a deliberate act of fraud can be subtle. White-collar criminals are masters of exploiting these gray areas. They use shell corporations, offshore accounts, and bafflingly complex legal structures to cover their tracks. It's like trying to find a single needle in a whole factory of needles, and the person who hid it is standing right next to you, confidently explaining why it's not technically a needle at all. Then there's the issue of resources. The government agencies tasked with investigating these crimes, like the SEC and the FBI, are often underfunded and overwhelmed. They are bringing a spork to a bazooka fight. On one side, you have a handful of government lawyers and investigators. On the other, you have a massive corporation or a billionaire with a bottomless legal budget, capable of hiring the best law firms in the country. These firms can bury prosecutors in paperwork and drag out cases for years, bleeding the government's resources dry until they are forced to settle for a lesser charge or just a fine. It's a war of attrition that the wealthy are well equipped to win. Finally, there's a cultural and legal bias at play. Our justice system has historically been much more focused on street crime. There's a tangible, visceral reaction to seeing someone get robbed. But a CEO lying on a quarterly earnings call, it just doesn't trigger the same public alarm, even if the damage is 1,000 times greater. Judges and juries can sometimes be more lenient, perhaps seeing the defendants as pillars of the community who just made a mistake, rather than as cold, calculating criminals. This often leads to fines instead of prison sentences, fines that, for the corporation, are just a cost of doing business, and for the executive, a small price to pay for immense personal enrichment. In theory, we have systems in place to stop this. We have government agencies that are supposed to be the watchdogs of the financial world. The big one in the United States is the Securities and Exchange Commission, or the SEC. Their job is to protect investors, maintain fair and orderly markets, and essentially be the referee in the chaotic game of capitalism. They set the rules for what companies have to disclose and have the power to bring civil enforcement actions against individuals and firms that break those rules. They are the ones who are supposed to catch the next Enron before it blows up. The problem is, the SEC is consistently outgunned. As we've mentioned, they face a massive resource gap. For years, their budget has not kept pace with the explosive growth and complexity of the financial markets they are supposed to be policing. They are dealing with high-frequency trading, cryptocurrencies, and financial instruments so complex, they sound like something from a science fiction movie, all with a budget that would make a mid-sized company laugh. It's like asking a single traffic cop to monitor every highway in the country, on a bicycle. It's an impossible task, and the people they are pursuing know it. Beyond the SEC, you have the Department of Justice, which can bring criminal charges against white-collar criminals. This is where you get the possibility of actual prison time. But the DOJ faces the same challenges: complex cases, deep-pocketed defendants, and the difficult task of proving criminal intent beyond a reasonable doubt. Following the 2008 financial crisis, there was a huge public outcry over the fact that very few high-level banking executives went to jail. The government often opted for massive fines against the banks instead. This too-big-to-jail philosophy sends a terrible message that, if you're important enough, the rules don't really apply to you in the same way. In response to scandals, Congress does occasionally act. After Enron, they passed the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, which created new rules for corporate accountability, and made executives personally certify the accuracy of their financial reports. After the 2008 crisis, they passed the Dodd-Frank Act, which aimed to create broad new regulations for the financial industry. These are good steps, but they are often watered down by intense lobbying from the very industries they are meant to regulate. For every new rule put in place, an army of lawyers gets paid to find a loophole. It's a constant cat and mouse game. And the mouse has a lot more money. How does the average person feel when they hear about another billionaire getting a slap on the wrist for a multi-billion-dollar fraud? To put it mildly, they are not thrilled. The public reaction to white-collar crime is a potent cocktail of anger, frustration, and deep, corrosive cynicism. It's the feeling that the game is rigged, that there is one set of rules for the rich and powerful, and another, much harsher set of rules for everyone else. This isn't just a feeling, it's a perception reinforced with every new story of a CEO avoiding jail time while a low-level employee goes to prison for a much smaller offense. This sense of injustice fuels a profound distrust in major institutions, not just corporations but the government and the justice system itself. When people see bankers who wreck the economy getting bonuses while millions lose their homes, it's hard to maintain faith in the system. This anger can manifest in political movements from Occupy Wall Street on the left to populist anger on the right. Both are fueled by a shared belief that a corrupt elite is running the show for their own benefit, and that the regular person is getting fleeced. It's an incredibly destabilizing force in a democracy. The media plays a huge role in shaping these feelings. Documentaries like Enron, The Smartest Guys in the Room, or TV shows dramatizing the Madoff scandal bring these complex stories to a wide audience. They put a human face on both the villains and the victims, transforming abstract financial crimes into compelling narratives of greed and betrayal. This storytelling is crucial because it makes people angry. And while anger can be a negative force, it can also be a powerful motivator for change, creating public pressure on lawmakers and prosecutors to actually do something about the problem. Ultimately, the public reaction is one of exhaustion. There's a feeling of, here we go again. Another scandal, another round of hearings where politicians feign outrage, another set of fines that the company will treat as a business expense. And then, nothing really changes. This cycle breeds apathy, which is almost as dangerous as the anger. When people give up hope that the system can be fixed, they disengage. They stop believing that their voice matters, and that creates a vacuum that allows the very people who benefit from the broken system to consolidate their power even further. The public is mad, and they have every right to be. The long-term consequences of unchecked white-collar crime are, frankly, terrifying. We've talked about the economic cost and the erosion of public trust, but let's really sit with what that means for a society. When a significant portion of the population believes that success is achieved not through innovation and hard work, but through cheating and connections, it fundamentally alters our social contract. It discourages honest ambition and encourages a cynical, get yours any way you can mentality. Why play by the rules when the cheaters are the ones who end up with the summer yacht and the feature in a glossy magazine? This creates a vicious cycle. Talented, ambitious people might look at the system and decide that the only way to get ahead is to cut corners. This, in turn, leads to more fraud, which further confirms the public's suspicion that the whole system is rotten to the core. It also makes it harder for honest businesses to compete. If you are a company that is meticulously following the law, paying your taxes and treating your employees well, you are at a distinct disadvantage when you're competing against a company that is doing none of those things. In a market rife with fraud, ethics can become a competitive liability. Furthermore, the failure to hold powerful individuals accountable creates a culture of impunity at the top. When a bank pays a massive fine for money laundering but no executive is personally charged, what lesson is learned? The lesson is that the institution might get hurt, but the individuals who made the decisions are safe. This is the concept of moral hazard. If you know you won't have to pay the price for your risky or illegal behavior, you are much more likely to engage in it. The fines become just another line item on the budget, a predictable cost of doing business rather than a genuine deterrent. This erosion of accountability has global consequences. It undermines the credibility of our financial markets in the eyes of the world. It fuels political instability and provides ammunition to authoritarians who can point to the hypocrisy of democratic nations that preach the rule of law while letting their own elites run wild. Rebuilding the trust that is lost is a monumental task. It requires more than just new laws. It requires a cultural shift where accountability is not just a buzzword, but a reality, applied equally to the person who robs a convenience store and the executive who robs a pension fund. Without that, the cracks in the foundation will only grow wider. So, we've taken a tour through the polished, air-conditioned world of white-collar crime. We've seen the spectacular implosions, the buffet of illegal options, and the devastating human cost that gets lost in the headlines about billion-dollar fines. We've seen how our watchdogs are outmatched, and how the public is, justifiably, fuming. Which brings us to the big, uncomfortable question: what are we actually going to do about it? Are we going to continue with the current approach of occasional, headline-grabbing, fines, and very few prison sentences for the people at the top, or is it time for a genuine reckoning? The path of least resistance is to keep things as they are, to accept that some fines will be levied, some laws will be tweaked, and that, for the most part, the system will continue to favor the powerful and well-connected. This approach involves a lot of sternly worded press releases from the Department of Justice, and a lot of CEOs issuing apologies that have been focus grouped to death by PR firms. It's an approach that treats systemic fraud as a series of isolated incidents, like a game of corporate whack-a-mole where for every one you bonk, two more pop up. And spoiler alert, that's not really working out for us. A tougher approach would require real structural change. It would mean significantly increasing the budgets of the SEC and the DOJ so they can actually fight on a level playing field. It would mean simplifying the law so it's harder to hide behind complexity. Most importantly, it would mean a renewed focus on individual accountability, not just fining corporations, but prosecuting and jailing the executives who make the criminal decisions. The prospect of losing a few years of your life in a federal prison is a far greater deterrent than your company paying a fine that you, personally, don't even feel. It's about making the consequences real for the decision makers. Ultimately, the choice is ours. Do we want a society that tacitly accepts a two-tiered system of justice, or do we want one where the rule of law applies to everyone, regardless of their net worth or job title? Because white-collar crime is not a victimless crime. Its victims are all around us, in the hollowed-out factory towns, in the retirement accounts that have vanished, and in the pervasive, nagging feeling that the deck is stacked against us. Continuing to slap the wrists of those who commit fraud on an epic scale isn't just a failure of justice, it's a choice. And right now, it's a choice that is costing us far more than we can afford.